right, I'd like to welcome Kenneth Anderson with us, the incredible filmmaker, video effects artist, and also co-creator of the Bowery Film Festival. Thank you so much, Kenneth Anderson, for joining us here at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale in our conversation series.
Thanks for having me.
The first thing to start off, and I was so pleased to see this, that you are a New School alum. And one of my favorite places in New York is the New School, and there's so many professors there that I have been connected with and collaborated with in the past. I know that you've sort of talked about this in interviews. How important was that sort of as a beginning to starting Bowery Film Festival and as your career as a filmmaker?
Well, so for those that don't know, the New School is right in the heart of New York City, and so for me, it was definitely more of a theoretical school rather than a hands-on type of program for film. But the contacts I made there lasted a lifetime, so I'm still working with a lot of the professors on their films and projects that I had, or other students, or um, just lifelong got my ways to get my foot in the door, especially being in a big city like that. But I think it could work at any school the same way.
The other thing that I found was interesting is that you sort of started your life in the Marine Corps and then went to the New School. Did that have a particular effect in your discipline and your approach? Because it's so interesting to me that you went to the New School, which is fairly experimental and the avant-garde, and Marine Corps is very disciplined and focused and regimented. Of course, I've worked with so many Marines in Hollywood, and you won't believe how many Marines end up in Hollywood, but I don't know, it just happens that way. But was it the same for you? Did it just sort of blend, or?
Well, so yeah, I got started in film in the Marines, I guess you could say. Is that I was in Iraq and we had a handy camera thing, back then. And so I made this, I guess you'd call it a documentary, and it was pretty controversial. I put it on YouTube right when YouTube came out. This was in 2005 maybe, and they asked me to take it down. So because it was a little bit, I guess you'd say, anti-war. And so the New School seemed like the exact reverse. I just wanted to do whatever the exact opposite of what I was just doing. So I think I Googled most liberal school in New York, and that was the number one thing. That's why I went there.
And that's the sort of heart of, what Geoffrey created, Geoffrey Guerrero, with Catra Films series, and also your co-founder at Bowery Film Festival. Was that the sort of how the two of you met? These sort of renegades, two people that were sort of thinking on the same wavelength?
Yeah, so I got involved with film festivals because I screened a film at Jeffrey's festival, and I'm also a web designer. So I mentioned that I could, improve his website, and we got to working together through that. And I never really thought I would be on the other side of a film festival. Usually as a filmmaker, you're the one submitting, so you don't really see what happens on the other side. So I was also interested in it because it's Bowery Film Festival. So Bowery is a street in New York. It's where punk rock started, the Ramones, CBGBs, everything like that. And I live close to that, so it was just a great fit. And I love branding, so I kind of was mostly interested, and mostly what I do for the festival is the branding, the logo, the video trailers, and kind of the more creative side of it.
And this connects into what you shared with me, some of the lyric videos that you're doing, and the things that you were saying, that you end up paying your bills with these things, but you're also doing short films at the same time. How are you balancing your sort of production work with running a festival, with doing all these side gigs simultaneously?
Well, I do keep busy, and yes, I yeah, to pay the bills, I guess you could say, I do music videos, lyrics videos, and quite a lot of just, I guess you'd say, Instagram videos for venues and music venues, bars in New York. And so yeah, I honestly don't have a lot of time for um, a feature film project or something that would be, in the future. So you got one there. Yeah, that one I just made.
Broken hearts that mended and fencing starts. I heard you crying. I heard you crying on my phone. It's understood.
Now, are these, when you end up doing these, are you getting paid per view on the thing? Or are you doing them for specific clients, and then they're creating the contractual agreements with you when you make it?
So it depends. There's never by view. I'm getting paid, for example, and that would be for the video, for each video. Some clients I have, it's on a monthly retainer.
Hmm.
So I'll just do, it'd be more, I'd say promos, buy album now type of little things that you could, just throw together. And bands and musicians definitely are in need of that kind of content, because if they didn't have that, they would just put their album cover on YouTube and that's it, right? We've
Right.
all seen that. So even if I've even made, honestly, like just a spinning thing, anything's better than nothing. And it's a really great thing that every musician wants and needs. And yeah, and it's great. You can be pretty creative with them. Um, you know,
Yeah, I think they're great. And so, did it end up being because right now you're stationed in Denver, or your connections with New York, that you brought some bands with you? Or was it that you were doing like a big net cast on the web, that you're bringing those musicians in, or word of mouth that you're sort of getting those clients to come to you?
it the same with Jeffrey. So I know how to make websites. So I started out making websites for bands, and some of the bigger bands, maybe you've heard of the Strokes, um guys from the Smashing Pumpkins, and sort of bigger bands. And so I learned that the people you want to meet are not the bands, it's the managers, the music managers. And once I did one video, it just spiraled, and now I'm getting requests every week, every couple weeks. But yeah, to answer your question, I guess my in, you would say, would be web design for a lot of these things.
So you made the websites first for the bands or the managers, and then through those contacts, it sort of exploded into this other thing and other possibilities. Or like they keep visiting the websites, and then there's sort of like that longest tail idea, and they
Right.
keep finding you.
Right. Yeah. And that was, I mean, I guess I would tell you that was a bit of a plan of mine, was thinking, if I could use this to get an in and meet these people, then I could do the videos, which is much more fun and interesting to me than building websites. But they're both pretty fun.
One thing I love about you and what you're doing is the creativity that comes not only from the projects that you're doing or the festival that you're running, but the ways in which you're creating income and sort of making this lifestyle that's very you. And sort of like this autonomy that I'm not going to be part of any organization, but I'm creating my own entity and my own thing. And it's totally working, you know, and you're living proof that this is a potential path and a way forward.
It is. And I have close friends that do corporate videos, right? They're filmmakers, but they film events, they film some weddings, some you know, just industrial videos, and you can make a lot of money doing that. I mean, everybody needs video content right now. So, you know, it's a, and they don't have a boss, they do their own thing, and it's all about just doing it, stepping out and doing it.
We were talking today, we had earlier this week, we had one of the directors from Saturday Night Live come visit, and he was talking about how difficult it was for him to get any directing jobs, even after doing Saturday Night Live, you know, and how you end up just doing what you can to make ends meet and finding your way. Is there any advice that you would give to our students now that are about to graduate, or some of our graduate students, since you're a graduate, you know, you were a graduate student as well?
Well, advice, I guess what I just said, it sounds cliche, but it's like the Nike thing, just do it. So figure out what you want to do and just do it, and don't wait, and don't, especially with filmmakers, a big thing I see is they'll write their script again and again and again, and it's never done. Or they'll plan and they'll plan, and years go by, and it's really easy when you're out of school to, I mean, when you're in school, you have a deadline, so you have to do it. Once you are out, there's no deadlines, it's all up to you. And so, yeah, I guess that'd be my number one advice. It sounds just cliche, but just do it. Very simple.
I think that's great advice with the just do it. And it's a shame that Nike already has it, or else you could take it. I think the other thing that we would be remiss to not talk about is bringing it back to Bowery for my last question. And then I see we have quite a bit of students now, so I know they have their own questions, and I'll stop because this is more than I usually do. But I want to ask this final thing, which is about Bowery itself and what type of content you're looking for. We do have several experimental filmmakers that are with us now. Are you looking for traditional narrative content as well? Is there anything specific that you look for as a curator, or that Geoffrey looks for?
Yeah, it's a good question. So every film festival, well, I wouldn't say every, but most of them have a, I guess you'd call it a personality. So it's good to know what type of festival you want to, what you're submitting to. So we are an art, I guess you'd say, edgy, artistic, rock and roll, experimental, comedy. We were looking for, there's nothing specific, but let me give you kind of an example. We're an urban New York City film festival. So let's say you made a Western cowboy short film that might not be the right fit for our vibe, if that makes sense. Or maybe even a slasher horror wouldn't be quite the vibe we're after. So, and I think it works like that with a lot of festivals, where you might submit and you made a great piece, but it just wasn't the right fit. It didn't fit with the rest of the films. But yeah, with experimental films, we definitely lean in that direction for sure.
I'm going to go ahead and open it up to students. So any of you, if you have questions, you can go ahead and start asking Kenneth those questions. I would also encourage you to ask questions about screenwriting and filmmaking, even though I didn't get into it too deeply. You're welcome to ask those of Kenneth. And you can just unmute yourselves and just ask the question.
Yeah, especially if anybody has questions about applying for film festivals or how to get in, or anything like that.
I'll go.
Okay.
I'm Andrew. Andrew Pirooz.
And he's our resident musician, punk rocker, and screenwriter. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, so I do. I play bass guitar, and I'm actually getting to the point in our thing where we're looking to make music videos. So maybe once we do that, I can reach out and you can see what we're up to. It's pretty cool stuff. But for now, we'll focus on screenwriting. If we're going to talk about my talents, we can be here all night, right? So when you're making a music video, how does that relate to filmmaking for you? I mean, I know that it's the same thing. You're making a story with the camera, but like, do those two things cross over, kind of like literally on a story aspect and like on a rhythmic aspect? When I write, a lot of times, I feel like I'm writing to music. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Editing is kind of the same way. A lot of people say the best editors are musicians because there's a rhythm to it. Writing, yeah, I could see it's the same. I mean, to me, the difference with music videos is there's really, I don't know, I don't feel like you're in a box. I feel like you can do a lot more with a smaller budget. But then, yeah, we've all seen music videos that turned out like essentially short films.
Right.
But for for most people with a smaller budget, and you don't see the big budgets like you did with Michael Jackson, in the 90s. So with smaller budgets, I don't know, music videos, to me, you can be more creative.
Yeah, because we really want to bring in a more cinematic aspect. Like we want a storytelling kind of. If it's an album, each song kind of connects in a way, even if it's really small. And I want to go about writing that like a script because that's what I'm most familiar with. So I'm kind of trying to figure out what components are like basically the exact same in video making for music and video making for film. Kind of a
Probably,
direct question.
I mean, it's an interesting question. I would say the cinematography. We had a music video at our last festival in November, and the music video was 10 minutes long, and it was a film. I mean, it was basically a film, and I believe it went from opera to rock and roll into different areas. It was awesome. It was really cool, and we've had a few that were kind of like that, but yeah, they had great cinematography. It looked like a short film. It's told a story, and yeah, that might be kind of what you're speaking about.
Mhm.
And you might also be asking Andrew about the difference in, since you're taking script writing right now with me and doing feature films. Oftentimes when we're doing music videos, we might not have a specific script like we would in a feature film, but we're rather storyboarding, or we're dealing with images and the ideas of things. So it's that storyboard that really helps us out on the music video when we're shooting something like that, or a shot list, or even just a theme.
Okay, that's interesting. Because I don't want to take more time because I know there's other questions, but I noticed in music videos there's kind of like two to three different things going on, and they don't necessarily connect, but they do at the same time. And it's just I'm excited to like try it out. Like I haven't actually put myself on the effort of it, but this is just like a crazy opportunity.
I think it's a good question that you're trying to formulate for Kenneth, because he's probably done every kind of music video. If you go to his YouTube, you can check out a bunch of them. And why don't you let Kenneth answer this and see what he has to say about possibilities?
Well, yeah, it's I guess what maybe this answers your question. So in a film, you're going to write a script, you're going to write a screenplay, a little bit like Pirooz was saying, where the music video, you're going to, in my experience, you make a treatment. And so what I do, I make a Google Doc and just put pictures, almost like a mood board, and explain this is gonna look like, this is kind of what that's gonna look like, and then you kind of hone down your treatment. But I've never seen a music video that was written out like a screenplay, like Exterior Day or those type of that format, I guess you would say. It's a little bit more, it's a little bit more like you're trying to sell it. You're just saying, hey, here's the idea, and if you can get it onto one page, and and that's the script, I guess you'd call it, in my experience.
That makes sense.
Cyrene had a question, and maybe we can come back to you, Andrew.
Hello. Since you're working with music video and you already have this collage and layers of music and image, that's what I'm really interested about in experimenting with. I was wondering if you have any filmmakers in mind that did the same thing with experimental short films. I've been trying to find some people who have done the same thing, but I've been having trouble coming up with ideas. I thought maybe you would have some suggestions.
But you're talking about for experimental filmmakers and not music videos, right? I would look into, it's in New York. There's a thing, I believe it's called Filmmakers Co-op. And it's run by M.M. Sarah, who's the main experimental professor at the New School. And they have a great archive of stuff you can look into. A lot of it is by unknown people, a lot of it's by known people, and it's, I believe, it's got to be the biggest experimental film archive in New York City. I was just there like a couple of weeks ago and saw some really cool, a really cool screening they put on. Yeah, he's got the website up there. That's a great resource for experimental film, and they're really nice too. If you ever reach out to them, I think once you make an experimental film, you can even, I don't know if you call it submit, but you give it to them and they will consider putting it in their archive and screening it.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I was just there. It was kind of interesting. They even screen, like 16 millimeter, the old films. It's really, you'll never see stuff like that anywhere else.
Other questions?
Well, my name is Darren.
Hey.
I do have a question about when you do your the treatment for your music videos. Do you work mostly with the band, or do you still work mostly with the management? And
Yeah, so I do, as I said, for a lot, I would say mostly what I'm doing is less of the live action music videos and more of like the thing Pirooz showed, more of the visuals. And so I'm almost always working with the management. I've even done stuff where the band didn't even know about it or that much, they saw it maybe a week later or 2 weeks later and said, oh, that was cool, right? So
wow.
but that's my experience. If you're going to do, I have a friend who is a pretty big music video director, and he will work a lot more with the bands, but you do get into, I remember he I would say works more with the label producers at his level, where they're more they have probably more creative control than the bands even do. I mean, I'm talking about Justin Bieber, kind of those bigger artists.
Uh-huh.
And so I think even they don't really have too much creative, they have creative control, but not total creative control on those. So, yeah, again, my thing I learned was meet the music managers, meet the people behind the scenes. They're the ones paying for it. They're the ones that want it. A lot of musicians they're artists, so they're writing songs. They're doing their thing. They're not worried about YouTube hits that often.
Gotcha. I understand. Thank you.
That's so good to hear, and so refreshing, because that was my same experience when I was dealing with Devo and the Cold War kids. Both bands I had to get songs for films for the soundtrack. And it was only through, you know, I would talk to some of the band members, but it was always the manager that saved the day. And I think it was with Devo, they were like, the manager was like, yeah, just I took a picture of the band. Here's some video footage I did of Whip It. Just use that. And it'll be a lot easier than, you know, like licensing the actual Whip It. It's just from my phone, but it'll work for your doc. And it was just like that. I was like, how much do I need to pay you? He was like, $100, $100. It's fine, you know.
Yeah, I'll tell you, everyone I know that's in a band, like let's for example, if you email them, they'll email you like 3 words back. You know, sounds good. You know, I mean, it's almost impossible to communicate sometimes with people that are musicians. Not all, but a lot of them, you know. Same idea.
So always go to the manager first is the rule
I
of
think
thumb.
so. And even in your case, I've a little bit tried to get music for films, and yeah, you're usually working with management or legal people, and not the musician.
I did see one more question from Sarveen, but she texted it rather than spoke it. But it was, would it be possible to get the name of the piece of the movie from opera to other genres, or to have a link to it so she could see it?
Yeah, I know
Maybe it's something we could get later.
It's on our website. It's boweryfilmfestival.com. And then I clicked on the films.
Okay.
And it might be on that. Yes, if you go to
Winners.
films, that, and it's down. It's called MeTube, METUBE. Down. You're almost there. The green MeTube. Yeah, if you click on that. I don't know if it's on YouTube or not, but you could look it up.
Okay.
And yeah, it was interesting. This year we screened music videos, and then we also had live bands. So they would play.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was great. So for example, we'd play a video, and then the band would come out and play the song from the video. It was really
Oh man, that's brilliant. Yeah. That's my favorite type of festival, when you can have that kind of physical interaction that makes it not just a festival anymore, but something else beyond it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you found that actually makes more people come out, or has it made Bowery more successful than other festivals that you've been involved with or in New York?
I think it's made it more fun. We have a reputation for being a fun festival. A lot of people want to be in it because we kind of, that's a great example where we're sort of forcing people to interact and meet each other instead of just sitting in a theater and watching films. So, you know, our music video night is always at a place that serves drinks. You know, you could be drinking. Music videos, you don't have to completely focus like a film. So you could have some drinks and watch the show and interact and meet people. And to me, that's really one of the most important parts of a film festival, is who you're going to meet there and get to know. So yeah, it was fun. I can't wait to do it again this year.
Yeah, I can't wait to come and see it as well.
Please do.
And I also want to encourage the people on Zoom, especially Sarveen, that keeps posting messages, questions. Interact. Sarveen, unmute yourself and ask the question instead of me asking the question. Go ahead and ask your question live. Interact.
Okay. I was wondering if you have any advice to yourself when you first started, or if it was a software you wish you had known, or if it was something you wish you had known that would have made it much easier to start.
Yes. So, okay, and especially maybe this would make sense for experimental films, would be something I learned along the way with short films is make it shorter, make it a lot shorter. Um, I used to think I one time made a short film and I wanted to make it seem boring, so I made it 10 minutes long. And my teacher made me cut it down to 2 minutes long, and it was so much better. And I've never made anything shorter and it was worse. I mean, a good example is, have you ever seen a movie and said, it was good, but it was a little too short. Right? It's always the reverse. So that's something I learned along the way, especially now with the internet and experimental film, especially because if you're going to make a 30-minute long experimental film, it can be tough. I mean, you do want to make it for an audience. So I wouldn't say that's always the case, but it is a long time for something abstract or avant-garde, right? So something I learned is just always make it shorter, and not a minute shorter, but way shorter, and it'll be better.
Well, thank you for that. I read flash fiction, so I can take that advice easily.
Yeah, I had a friend, he just made a 25-minute long short film, and I told him, you got to cut it down, and it was experimental, and he cut it down to 22, and I said, no, 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 make it 10 minutes. And he was about crying doing it, but he did it, and now it's great. And before, it was pretty hard to sit through. So yeah.
That's a great thing to get into next. I don't know if anybody would ask that, but one of the big things that I end up finding is meeting with resistance when you're about to give someone advice and they just don't want to take it, but it's the thing that's the good. It's like trying to offer somebody the vegetables they don't want to eat, right? What do you do in those situations, especially when you're the director, you're the festival organizer, or you're the great friend that wants to give the advice that's really going to help out, and be the good bud, and get them to sort of hear it when they might not want to?
I don't know. I would just say tact. It's good to be honest. People want to hear the truth um, about it, but you could be, I don't know. Well, as film students, one thing that bothered me in film school, I don't know about your class, but the teachers said everybody's project was great when it wasn't always great. So sometimes it was good to get out of there and hear some real world feedback, from film festivals and so forth. But yeah, I mean, if you're giving somebody constructive criticism, there's no reason they should be upset at you. Just be, nice about it.
Sarvin, do you have another question?
Yeah, I do have one more question. I have never written a screenplay, so I don't know where I would be able to get a feedback for it. I know that if I write short fiction, I can approach writing groups, and you mentioned film festivals. Is it possible to get feedback from film festivals, or is there a specific place that you would suggest we try?
Um, you know, I know we accept screenplays, but we don't. We're not the type. There are festivals, I believe, that are only meant for feedback on those. I would look into a script doctor for that, and a script doctor or a writing class. Um, I could give you, well, they're in New York City, but some of them are online. I could give you a couple of people to look into. One that you might be interested in, it's called meditative writing. If you Google meditative writing, and she's a sponsor of Bowery Film Festival, and I believe she does script doctor work and Zoom type of feedback, which is, I think, maybe more what you'd want to do in that case than a film festival, which is actually a competition. another person you could look at. His name is Lauren, Loren, Kaplan, Caplin, and he does another. It's kind of just a workshop. They're small, 6 people, and you read each other's projects sometimes, or the instructor gives you the feedback and stuff, and they're really good, both of them.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, I just had one and I'm trying to remember.
It's okay. We got a few more minutes before we cut it off. And I know you wanted to ask one anyway. Go ahead.
Okay. So kind of going back to the music video thing, because I'm pretty big on that. Is there a type of music video that you would recommend making right now? I know that you're more like in the animations of it, but if we're going to make a music video, do you think we should go for experimental and like really creative, or do you think it's a safer bet to go with a more traditional modern day music video?
I guess to me it depends on the song, really, but I can tell you from our film festival, we would want the experimental one, rather than. I mean, we get a lot of submissions for our festivals, and sometimes they're well made, but it's just only performance shots, and there's nothing else to it. So as far as festivals go, yeah, anything new, anything people haven't seen before would be what I would think would be, better.
So would sort of like a hybrid short film music video under 10 minutes, certainly, like still like probably like the length of a little longer music video, would that be something you guys kind of accepted and would be interested in seeing?
100%. Yeah, that would be really, so that's exactly the type of thing we're looking for. Is something that's not not in a genre, kind of breaking the mold, if you will. And yeah, those are great. Something that's kind of a music video, musical film. I'm trying to think on the top of my head. I know we've screened stuff like that it's just I've never seen it before, and that's usually what we as a festival go for.
Okay, well, I will certainly be making one of those. I don't know if you can tell I was leading there, but yes,
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, so yeah, I might think of another question if someone else wants to go, but I had something else.
Dejane?
Can't hear you.
You're still muted.
Still can't hear.
While she's getting her microphone fixed, somebody else can ask a question.
Testing, testing.
Go ahead and ask.
Oh,
Yeah.
Dejane's here. Go ahead.
Hi, sorry, I was connected to
Hi.
Steam, like the Steam. So many things, technology tonight. So I'm Dejane Robinson. Hello. I don't know if these questions have been asked already, but I have 3, and you can answer them in any order. First question is, what has been your biggest challenge in developing a screenplay? What advice would you offer aspiring filmmakers and screenwriters? And what has been the most rewarding part of the filmmaking screenwriting journey for you?
Okay, So I think the one question I touched on a little bit was the advice, which was my advice, as I said before, was to just do it, to just go, just make it. Don't spend too long rewriting and writing and making it perfect. It'll never be perfect, so just do it. Challenge, I think you asked me what was a challenge. Um, boy, a challenge. I mean, yeah, I guess every film is a challenge. I don't know if I would have a biggest one. Um, I wouldn't call it a challenge, but maybe as a young filmmaker would be not having any money is a challenge, but that's also a benefit because you can use your limitation as a to help you in a way. But sometimes that actually is a benefit, is to have, a limited amount of people, a limited amount of time, a limited apartment. This is the only place we can shoot. Um, but yeah, everybody's going to say maybe budget starting out, having no budget. So that's a challenge, but it's a good challenge. And I think your third question was reward.
Yeah, how has this journey been most rewarding for you? At what part, or what has been?
To me, the most rewarding thing. So I'll go back into the film festival, is that I like to see the fact that I helped make somebody's day in a way, or almost. Let me give you an example. So when I see the filmmakers up there and they're doing their Q&A and they just screen their work, and I'm kind of sitting in the back and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I helped, perhaps launch that person's career. Perhaps I helped them get their film out there, or at the very least, I helped them have, the best day, one of their best days of the year that they'll have. So the reward to me is in filmmaking is the filmmakers, and helping them get their work out there. A little bit of a selfless thing in my case, but I like to see the smiles on their face.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think I'll go ahead and ask my question. I was wondering, so I went from Bowery Film Festival. I read that it says, we showcase films that resist a norm in technique, form, or content from the mainstream and present adventurous works that challenge commercial and audience expectations. So is it safe to say that you're looking for avant-garde movies? And I was also wondering if there is a specific length that um, that you're looking for in this festival.
So yes, so the avant-garde movies we're looking for any type of films. They don't have to be avant-garde. We play your typical short narrative films as well, but we definitely kind of, I guess you could say, lean towards or are into something that's a little different or avant-garde. A length, there is no correct length, but as I said before, and that even goes for film festivals too, is you're going to have better luck for film festivals if it's shorter. It's a little bit hard to program as a film festival a 45-minute long experimental film. I mean, it could be even if it's really great, it'd be very hard for any festival to program that in, but it's easier to program a lot of 10-minute long shorts. So if I had to throw out a number, I would say, 15 minutes, 10, 8, 6, in there. But once you make a film longer, a short film longer than 30, especially an experimental film, it's just more difficult to program in.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
I have a simple but could be a bad question. I'm not even sure.
Right.
Do you only accept the film, or would you ever accept like the script, or do you accept the script? Or you might have already went through that, but
Yeah, we have a screenwriting competition
Okay.
for 3 categories: short films, feature films, and episodic films or episodic series, like a TV pilot.
Oh, I have all 3 of those. All right, cool. This is exciting stuff.
Yes, and we give out great prizes too. So our festival, a good example would be screenwriting. So I mentioned that one of those screenwriters before it, and she was a sponsor. So some of our screenwriting people that we accept, they take her class for free or something like that. So we just give out different type of prizes depending on what the film is about, or so on and so forth. I mean, it could be a prize from Canon or a green screen studio, or just different type of things that can be useful for filmmakers.
I can tell that they would keep going, but we're already over time for Kenneth. Is there any one last question that anybody wants to ask?
Can I
Andrew?
get your email and can you share contact information? So,
Oh, yeah. You want I mean, I could put it in the chat. Would that make?
perfect. Yeah.
Here, let me see if I can figure out how to do it. I'll put my email. I'll put my Instagram. And then I'll put the Bowery Film Festival. There you go.
Well, on behalf of everyone, thank you so much, Kenneth, for your generosity, your kindness, your selflessness, your amazing festival. I hope that all of our students submit either screenplays or films, and I hope I get to meet you in the city soon. It's been a pleasure.
That'd be great. Thanks so much for having me.
Of
good luck
course.
to everyone with your projects.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. See you soon. Thank you, Kenneth.
Bye.
Bye.